I guess welcome.
What's up?
We're collaborating for the first time live.
In person, yeah.
Yep, live in person. So, of course, it's me, Jovan Lizzo, the host and owner of Caps RX Podcast, with Dr. Bartu Wilson, the man of Pill Talk Podcast. So, today we are just going to talk about a lot of different things. It's a very free flowing conversation. We might clip up a whole bunch of different things, making multiple episodes, but it's an honor and pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming down and checking me out.
Yeah, I had to fly to Houston. He's been giving it so much praise, and so I had to come check things out. And so I guess we'll start off with that. So you made a transition going from DC to Texas, to Houston, Texas. And that's something that even me, I'm thinking about, all right, I want to move, but I might have to get a new state license. The transition, will I have to go maybe from a ground zero to build back up? Like all these different things that are going on when it comes to moving. So what was kind of your thought process and rationale from going from DC to Texas?
Yeah, so when I was out there in the DMV area, I always knew that I wanted to move. I always knew that I was going to come down here to Texas, specifically Houston. So things that I did things that I did to prepare myself for that was going ahead and practicing and doing some research and learning the Texas laws and getting licensed in Texas prior to actually moving to Texas. So that way I was already licensed to practice here in Texas. And then my next step was I worked for a large retail chain. So I reached out to my district leader and was like, hey, this is my move. I'm planning to move to Houston, Texas in this time frame. What can I do to help facilitate this and make this transition smoother? And he just been very honest with me and just say, all right, this is what you would need to do. Find the area that you will be living in, and then start reaching out to those stores reach out to those stores to get in contact with their district leader and let them know, hey, you coming down, and if they got an opening, and once you figure that out and who you need to contact or who do he or she needs to be in contact with, let me know, and I will send down a reference or a letter and talk to that person directly via email or phone. So that was very helpful. Initially, I didn't know where I wanted to go. So finding actually where I was going to buy a house, where I was going to rent an apartment or something like that. So once I figured that out, it was easy to come down here and start surveying the area and making phone calls to the local stores, just to get that information.
Okay. So what I love about what you just mentioned was, one, the preparation beforehand. So
Definitely.
You went ahead and made sure you were licensed before even having to make the move, so it's not like you're backtracking. So I'm assuming this would be a recommendation. If you're thinking about transitioning to a different state, go ahead and get licensed in that state first, so that way when the opportunity comes, you're already prepared, and you can just go ahead and make that jump. And then the other thing you're saying is reaching out to the district managers, reaching out to the pharmacists in that area to see if opportunities are opening up. And I think that's something where much respect to your district manager for being able to be open with you and give you that honest opinion, because a lot of times if you don't ask, or if you're thinking about things you think you have to do it alone, in pharmacy, if you're a student or a pharmacist listening, a lot of us want to help each other out. So never be afraid to mention something or ask questions on what was, like, how should I make this transition? What are your recommendations? How can I make this transition or move happen? Even if it's one of your bosses. Because more than likely they want you to be in a situation where you're happy, because if you're not happy, you're probably not able to provide the best quality of care to the patients that they have there. So going from there to here, what would you say has been like actually, before we go into that, would you say there's any like recommendations for anything that you use to prepare for the MPJE, the Texas MPJE, like any resources you can think of?
I'm gonna tell you no lie. It's only one resource that I've used to help me pass all 3 state licenses. I'm licensed in the state of South Carolina, the state of Maryland, and then also the state of Texas. And it's an app. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, feel free. Put you on the spot. This is live, so we're putting each other on the spot. So don't mind us if we have to pull out the phone to access things and to confirm things. But yeah, because I know in Florida there was I I forget his name, but it's Dr. C's book, and I know he also has a book for Texas, and that's what I use to prepare for the Florida MPJE. So anybody listening that wants to be licensed in Florida, I recommend you get that Dr. C's book for Florida because that helped me tremendously.
So what I use is an app.
Okay.
It's called RX Exam.
RX Exam.
So what it does is, it gives you practice exams or practice questions, and after each question, it breaks down a law and tells you how the law is used in different scenarios, and it gives you a whole lot of content, a whole lot of information about each law that it questions you on.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's about 5 exams, 30 questions on each, and after you do it so many times, you'll realize that you know the information back and front, because I had it as a way that it would prompt me. I would answer the question, and then it would prompt the correct answer, and then all the information that goes with that question, all the state laws. And I would read that every day. So like I would know the answer to the question, but then I would quiz myself on the information that prompted after the answer. It'd be like, let me make sure that I know why this answer is correct based on the information that this provided. And for me, it was short, it was detailed, it was to the point, and that's what I needed. Definitely working and preparing for this. Well, I need something that was directly to the point. For me, that's what I used to pass all 3 exams.
Okay. And does this? I'm assuming you have to pay for the app.
Yeah, I think the app. I can't remember the price, but
how much? Okay.
The app, I think, it gives you a half a year, 6 months access, or maybe a year access to whichever state that you're applying to. And when I say this app is work wonders, I found this app when I was in South Carolina in pharmacy school, getting ready to take the law exam for South Carolina. And another student from another school, I think they were from South, and they told me about the app. And I got on it and I was using it, and I got so familiar with it. I felt like when I took the law exam for South Carolina, that this app was so good for me personally, that the question that they asked, I'm like, I know this question. Yeah.
Okay. So RX Exam is what he recommends. So anybody listening, especially because I don't know when this will be released, but with a lot of, right now it's May 6th, so a lot of 4th-year pharmacy students are finishing up their rotations. You're going to have to start preparing for your MPJEs for your state license and also the NAPLEX. So check out RX Exam. And how long would you say you studied for it? Because I know for me, I only studied for like 7 days. I don't recommend that. I just went in there and did a lot of guessing and it worked. But everybody's a little bit different. Yeah, I did about 7 days.
7. For me, like I wanted to know, definitely, like I try to hold myself at a high level, and I want to bring value to anyone, any place that I come to. So me not knowing where I'm going to be located, I'm like, I need to make sure I know the laws front and back, so that way if something happens, I can stand on my answer. So I probably studied for probably a month, on and off. You do 1 or 2 quizzes a day, on and off. But it's one of those things is, for me, that's just how I was. Even in like pharmacy school, like I studied regularly because I just needed to know. Like I have one friend who was a crammer. I mean, she would literally study the day before an exam and get a 99 or 100.
I know somebody like that too, yeah.
It would make me mad. Nah, not really, but I'd be like, man.
He was in Rokai. Yeah. And everybody's just different. Everybody has a different gift. So it's like some people can just retain a lot of information in a short period of time. But if you ask them maybe like a week after the exam, it all leaves. So everybody's different. Everybody's brain process is different. So that makes sense. Like me, for something like the MPJE, I had to cram it. That was what was best for me. But, as you prepare for it, you'll kind of figure out what's the best for you. If it's 1 week, 2 weeks, maybe a month. But the one thing I'll say is you can never prepare too much for a state license exam, okay? For a national exam like the NAPLEX. So if you want to take your time and prepare for a month, then just do that. Do whatever's best for you.
I can also say probably your 4th year, your 3rd year, you had to go through pharmacy law for your school. So by the time, and you started practicing your 4th year, and you was already in that state. So for you, that week was more than enough because you was using the information
That is true.
so long.
Yeah.
For me, it was just like going back and getting the information.
Yeah.
But I will say this about every state has different laws, but if you actually memorize and understand the federal laws for your pharmacy, that will give you the edge on a lot of things.
Yeah, because the exam is about both federal and state law. So that way, if you have that federal law background down, all you got to do is really learn the difference with that state's law. So that's a great point. Okay, so now you're in Houston. When you made that transition, did you get automatically like the same title position that you had over in DC, or did you kind of start from a different level, how to work your way up, or what was that like?
Great question. I was literally about to say, when you transition or transfer, either in districts, states, even just locations, you got to be able to go with the flow, able to be fluid with transition. Because when I was out there in the Maryland area, the DMV, working as a pharmacist, I was a pharmacy manager, had my team built, or building a team. And when I transitioned here, a few things I ran into was, for me, I don't think it's a big difference, but they said that the cost of living is lower in Texas than it is in the DMV area. That might be the other parts of Texas, but not Houston. But
Okay.
so that was one of the things. Like, okay, we're gonna have to reduce your pay because of the cost of living is different. And then the availability that we don't have a pharmacy manager position open. We have a floater position open. So when you come here, basically you'll be a floater. You'll have to go to different stores to help out. You'll be a support team member. So anytime there's an opening, someone takes a vacation, someone gets sick, you would be the first one we reach out to kind of fill in those spots, because we want to make sure that we take care of our patients. So coming down here, it was that transition of having a set schedule to being able to be so flexible that I had to, just go around the city. And I just looked at the brighter side of it. Number one, being new to the city, I actually get to see the city now because I'm able to go to different stores. So I'm able to learn different areas, able to learn the different demographics, those different pockets of people. And now when I'm go out and inside of Houston, I can see different things. I know different areas. I know different people in different sectors of the city because I had that ability to actually go out and meet them.
Yeah, and that's true. I can't speak on DC because I don't know their demographic too well, but I'm sure there's probably more of, because Houston's pretty diverse. So there's a large Asian population, a large African American population, large Caucasian and Hispanic. So I'm sure there's different demographics that are more dominant in certain stores. So maybe you're more of a Hispanic area, or more Caucasian area, or maybe more of an African American area with your stores. And that kind of helps you learn the different types of people that you'll be engaging with, the different types of parts of the city, like what's going on here, what's going on here. And so that's like a really cool experience to get when you come here, because you don't know anything. So it gives you an opportunity to start learning the city and learning about the different people that are within the city.
One thing about that is like always being open-minded and with inclusion and diversity, because one store was in like the Chinatown area. So I was able to like meet them, understand their culture, and learn from them, and understand why they do things a certain way they do it, and see their perspective. And then the next day I may be in a underserved community and be able to give off a great value to this demographic of people, because they might not be used to this type of service. So I was able to come in and greet them and, show them who I am. They let me know who they are. And just also give some like motivation and inspiration, because sometimes certain pockets of areas don't see African American pharmacists. So for them, when they come in and see me, it's like a breath of fresh air. Like, oh, how you doing today? I'm doing great, man. It was like, man, can I bring my child in to have a word with you for a moment? they was thinking about what are the next steps they want to do after high school or after college,
Yeah.
and stuff like that really means a lot.
Yeah. The power of being able to relate to somebody, is you see this a lot, I would say, in sports with like certain people. You'll see like I think one of the, if you're a sports watcher, I'll use Nick Bosa and Joey Bosa. Like Nick Bosa is a younger brother of Joey Bosa, much better football player. But when you see your older brother make it to the league, you can believe it more, right? A lot of times, like I think LeVar Ball said that with his kids, like, oh, LaMelo's gonna be the best one because once he saw Alonso can make it, he can truly believe that he's capable of making it. And so when another person sees somebody of a similar demographic being successful, doing the right thing, providing quality care, maybe you can inspire their children, their nephew, their niece, whatever the case is, to go ahead and pursue a certain career path that they probably never believed was possible because they never had somebody present that could show them the way. Yeah. And so that's something that's always powerful to be able to give back. And that's one of the reasons why I love doing charitable events. I love like whether it's like feeding the homeless or doing different things like that to give back to the community in Orlando or even in other cities. I haven't really done charitable events in other cities, but that's something that I'm thinking about doing maybe like Fort Lauderdale, Miami this year, probably around like Thanksgiving time. But just because you never know who might be inspired or who you might meet and the type of positive impact you can have on their lives, because times are tough. Yeah. Times are tough, and so it's
life be lifing.
Yes, life be lifing. we do know. So life be lifing, and that's kind of our hashtag for today. Life be lifing. So that's something where anytime we can make a difference and an impact in somebody's lives, that's one of the reasons why we're passionate about pharmacy and we're passionate about helping any pharmacy students, any pharmacists that listen. And also our patients, like we just want to make a positive impact and bring a lot of quality and value to individuals' lives. And this is something that this career, it's not just our patients. We could be helping out sometimes our patients' children, their grandchildren, or other things like that by being inspirational. And that's one of the reasons why I love going to the schools too, like meeting pharmacy students. I'm gonna see if I can maybe even go to like high school and stuff like that and talk to some kids, just because like, if you don't know it's possible, like why would you even think about this career path or doing this and that? You've never seen it, yeah, exactly.
Let me jump back on the transition part really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when I came down, transitioning was a floater. So one thing I want a lot of people to know is give more value than what you are taking away, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things that I've came down here is great customer service. Not even punctual. I come before time. I want to prep the store before it opens up. So by the time it opens, I'm not looking for something. I already have a flow. I already have a tempo in the pharmacy. So by the time the gates open, the customers come, I'm ready to go. By doing that was able to get recognized. So I was working with core stores. Then they moved me to the retail chain inside of a grocery store or inside of a department store. So now I ended up getting a better demographic of customers, and while working in there, giving value to the customers and giving value to the retail company that I'm working for, they saw this as like, a good demonstration. So they were like, hey, we actually have a position of a pharmacy manager open up. Would you actually mind taking this position? Now you will get increased pay, a set schedule, and I can get back to building a team that will ultimately become, one of the finest in the district.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna be great on care and customer service, but because like this will actually help me out, because now I can get back to recording and other things that I want to do, because I will have a set schedule. I have a set store. Now, the customers that I was giving value to, now I have a concentrated customer base that's regular, and I can actually get to be more personal with them. I can actually know them better. And, just by working there for like the last month or so and really starting to open up, because a lot of people, when they see a new face, they don't know you. They don't want to ask you certain questions. They don't want to.
They don't open up as much.
Yeah. And after seeing me for so long, now they come by the store and be like, they call me by my name. I call them by their name. I actually have a conversation with them. A gentleman, he came by, helped him out. He needed his Freestyle Libre sensor put in his arm. So most pharmacists wouldn't do it. But I said, you know what? I help you out. You're gonna come sit down. I'll walk you through the steps so that you'll know how to do it properly.
Yeah.
In the midst of this, we started having a conversation about him and life. And I found out he's a Chicago stepper.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
He showed me videos and contests and things that he's in.
Yeah.
And I was like, I would have never guessed this about you. And he was like, yo, matter of fact, would you like to come to one of my classes? So I'm actually going to check that out.
That's
one day.
awesome.
So like just being able to give value and you see how that comes back.
Yeah, definitely. And you touched on something that I always recommend people to do is if it's not work for free, it's work for a pay cut. Okay? Provide so much value to whatever you do. So one of the strategies, if you're a pharmacy student, you feel maybe you're not getting the amount of money you want starting off in whatever job you're pursuing. What I would recommend is get a per diem position and work your butt off. Show up early, stay late, even if it's off the clock, do whatever is needed. Show them how valuable you are as a person. And I guarantee you, when it comes time to a full-time position opens up or a part-time position opens up, they will be giving you a call first.
Yeah.
And they will be offering it to you. And you could probably have a little bit more negotiation than other people because of how much value you brought to the company. So there's a lot to always remember. I kind of felt this way when I first got into working pharmacy after leaving school, where it's like, all right, I made it. And it's like, no, this is just the beginning. Like you're literally starting from ground zero again. Like getting to pharmacy school, that was great, and completing it was great. That's an accomplishment that you should be proud of. But that's not the end all be all. You still have to go back to ground zero because you never worked as a pharmacist. Or you never worked here as a pharmacist. So you have to prove it again. And so you kind of have to go back to ground zero, show up early, stay late, work as hard as you can, learn from everybody as much as you can, provide value to your customers, provide value to your coworkers, and then all the effort you put in, it'll eventually be shown to the people that, the hiring people, the higher ups. Eventually your name is going to be brought up to them, and they're going to wonder, as soon as a position comes open, all right, let's go reach out to this person, see if they're interested in getting a job. And guarantee you'll probably get the amount of money you're probably looking for close to it. So that's a great tip that I would recommend. If you're not finding it right off the bat with like a full-time or a part-time position, maybe go per diem first. You might get paid a little bit less, but as soon as something opens up, or if they don't have something open up, they might just open you up a position if they love you that much.
Yeah.
And then they'll pay you what they believe you're worth. And so that's a quick tip that I would recommend to anybody. I know it's risky because you're just coming out of school, you have all these loans, but trust me, if you really work hard and you show them, you'll get the job.
Yeah. Also, I know a lot of people, when they look at the floater position, they don't want to get it because they don't want to drive, they don't want to do certain things. But I looked at that floater position as a position where I actually get to meet different pharmacists in the area and make actual connections with them. So it's different pharmacists that I've met and communicated with that I have their phone number. Anytime I have a question about something, about the company, about a law, about, process procedures, I can send them a direct message and they get back to me so quickly. So that's one good thing that I took away from being a floater, was that I could go in and meet different people and make those connections, make those bonds, and like become like a mastermind where I can use their brain power immediately, have access to it to do what I have to do to get that knowledge so that I can help the customers better. And also meet different technicians too, because it's gonna be times when you work and you're like, hey, I'm short staffed. You actually can reach out to them directly and be like, hey, you are a great communicator, a great worker, you're very knowledgeable. Do you have any extra time that you would like to come in and work at my store? Or do you know someone who's on your level or is able to work?
Anybody you recommend
Yeah.
that we should go ahead and reach out to cover this shift? Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the networking, you'll always hear about it, the power of networking in pharmacy. And even within a setting like this where you might already have a title position or something like that, that networking is still key because you have to bring in other staff members. People won't always show up, so you have to have the ability to reach out to others and see if you can fill in for somebody because somebody's gonna call out. It's life. Life be life. So people will call out, right? So it's like it happens all the time at the hospital that I work out. People always call out, so you have to have some people in your back pocket to reach out to, so that way everything can still run smooth.
And another thing that I took away from being a floater, a support staff, I think that's the term that they're using now, is you get to see examples of how other pharmacies are run, and you get to see how they staff or maintain. So for me, when I go into a store, I see those things, and I see the good and I see the bad. So I take away the good. This is what I need to implement and where I'm going at and what I can do to make myself better. I see the bad, be like, okay, how can I prevent these habits and prevent these things from happening? Because with anything, definitely when you become a pharmacist and you start working, you realize 90% of your job is habit forming. So it's building great habits in the beginning to create a great team. So like when I go into a store and I be like, man, the shelves are all organized, there's no expireds, the paperwork is all settled and organized, and then like everything is stocked. Like those little things make the day easier. So I'm like, oh, if I know those little things are like organized and all right, and I'm like, when the staff come in, I know they're on top of it. Because they already built those habits to make it so that this is not even like a spontaneous thing, but this is something that happens daily. So make sure when you get out there, you build great habits on coming to work early, building strong teams, being ready to just give you all.
Definitely. So we talked about that transition. We talked about everything you got going on right now. Let's see. Where do you want to go next? Do you want to talk about AI? Do you want to talk about Pill Talk?
I got some questions for you.
Okay. Yes, ask away.
All right. So when we first met, you was in your residency.
Correct. Yes.
Now you are a full staff pharmacist. So how's that transition been for you? And what do you see as the difference? Because I know as a resident, you're working 60 plus hours, and now you're being a pharmacist, you're down to 40. You got more life, huh? You got more time.
Yeah, yes and no. Yes and no. So to answer the first part of that question, so yes, I think for me the transition was very easy because I stayed on at the hospital I was at. So even if I didn't stay on that hospital, if I would have stayed in that hospital system, it would have been easy because I'm already familiar with all the protocols, because that really doesn't change from a campus. It's all within a system protocol. Within a region, all the Central Florida region has the same protocol. So that was pretty easy. It wasn't a big change. I did do a ambulatory care residency, but we had inpatient staffing components. There was no availability in the AmCare clinics, but they had per diem opportunities within the inpatient side as far as mainly staffing. So I mainly did that for like a couple of months, and then recently in December I got a part-time position there. But the whole time I've been working like 40 hours. They just had that availability. So I work clinical, inpatient, like internal medicine floors, and then also working in the central. And then recently they've been training me in the ED, so now I'll be in the ED as well. So kind of bouncing around. Kind of feels like residency again because I'm in like all these different situations and all these different, because even with internal medicine, there's different floors with different tasks that we have responsibilities for. So I'm really getting a wide variety of things. And to some, it's not great because it's not a regimented schedule that I have. Like some of my shifts are 8 hours, some of them are 10 hours, some of them are as early as 6 in the morning, some of them are as late as 11 p.m. I'll start. Sometimes I even work overnight shifts to cover for people. So I'm all over the place. But for me, that's something that I just enjoy the variety. So I don't feel mundane. I don't feel bored doing the same thing every single day. I think that would make me feel kind of boring. But I've enjoyed that. It's been a super easy process. I will admit, touching on what you said with the second part of that question, transitioning from doing like 60 hours a week to now more 40. I've talked to other past residents about this, not from my class, but from classes above me. I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody who has like mental health issues, so I don't want to call it like depression or anything like that. But I will admit, I felt very. I guess I would say I had like depressed states going from 60 to 40 because even before that, like I was like a studyholic, so I did a lot of schoolwork, you know, whether it's student organization stuff like that. So it's like I've always felt like I've worked like 60 hours a week, and I also worked part time. I think like 16 hours a week when I was a student. So I always felt like I worked like 50 to 60 hours, and to scale it back, it was just like, what do I do with free time? Like I've never had that before, and then also getting paid. It's like, what do I do with free time and money? And it's like I just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I tried to reach out and talk to people and kind of see what they did. And they all kind of told me they felt the same way at first. And it's just like you just start experiencing life and you go do different things. And, you know, maybe you find a hobby you love. For some people, it was going back to playing sports. So they might join like a basketball league or a softball league or a baseball league to kind of fill in that time and that gap and build that camaraderie with other people. Because that was a big thing when it came to pharmacy school, was like the camaraderie that I built with all of my classmates. And now in the workforce, we all have our different lives and different things like that. Yeah, you have camaraderie with your coworkers, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
Like when you leave work, people are usually just going home. When we left pharmacy school, we're all going out to hang out together, right? Whether it's go get lunch, go get dinner, things like that. So, you know, I kind of went through that, but I just started experiencing different things and started putting more time into the podcast. I ended up picking up a second job, which for some people it's not for them, but for me, I thought it was a great opportunity to learn about long-term care facilities. So I was able to start working per diem at a long-term care facility. I still work there now. So it's just been, so now I probably work like 50 hours a week, but that's kind of been what's worked for me, is working a little bit more, but also just experiencing more life. So finding different things that I wanted to be a part of, finding different things for me was, all right, I've always wanted to travel, so I started traveling. So I went to like DC, I went to Baltimore, New Jersey, Boston. I'm in Houston for a second time. More trips coming soon. So it's just finding the different things that kind of bring you inner peace and exploring those has kind of been what I've done to fill that time. But I would say it was a transition. It did take me maybe about like 2 or 3 months to get. I'm still not really comfortable with the money. It's still weird seeing my paycheck going from like a pharmacy student amount of money to resident salary to pharmacist salary. Like the difference in pay is incredible. You know, and it's like still living a pretty student lifestyle, excluding the trips and stuff like that. It's just like, wow, like what do I do with all this? So
don't let lifestyle creep in on you.
No.
Keep lifestyle down. So.
Yeah. I still live below my means.
Good stuff.
Yeah, so I still live below my means, and yeah, that's basically been it. Little moments of depressed states, I would say, but you start finding yourself just by life. Sometimes you just gotta live life and experience things, and then you can find the things that you truly enjoy and the things you want to put your time towards and your energy towards. So for me, it was like the podcast. I also have a food blog on Instagram, as some of you may know. So going out to eat a little bit more, going to the gym. That's been like a daily thing I do now. One of the things I love doing now is going for nature walks. So I go to like different parks, and I'm sure y'all seen on my stories a lot. I'm always checking out Lakeshore Park and stuff like that. So just finding different things that bring me peace and exploring those. That's what I would say I've been spending more time doing.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
That's what's up. Man.
Let's see. Any other questions you got for me?
Yeah. So you're in the hospital, hitting the different sectors of the hospital.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself going next? Like, how do you want to progress up? Like, do you want to become, I guess, the pharmacy director of the hospital? Do you want to open up your own little outreach in the hospital to reach out to the community? Because you like to, you like to do things that help out the community.
Yeah.
So, what's the next steps for you?
That is a great question. My boss and I actually recently had a talk about this too. I do believe you need to speak things into existence, but I believe I'm in a state of just allowing life to kind of guide me on the path I should go. I don't want to force anything. So if you would have told me I would have been working inpatient, I would have been like, no, like I love amp care. Like I didn't think I'd be doing this. If you would have told me I was in the ED, I would have told you you're crazy because I never did a rotation in ED. I never did anything. Why would I be in the ED? So sometimes life just guides you in a certain way. And so I could see life guiding me to, to different scenarios. Like maybe I become a full-time ED pharmacist. Maybe I become more of a full-time central pharmacist. Maybe I become a full-time inpatient. It's more, honestly, it's like whatever the hospital needs, I gotta just do. Because I'm like a kid in a candy store. But as far as my desires, it's tough because I'll be honest and transparent with everybody. It's twofold. One, yes, I love and I'm passionate about AMP care. So parts of me thinks like I would love to do either like AMP care or open up like a TOC, transitions of care, with like within the hospital setting, because we already have that on the outpatient side. But before patients are discharged from the hospital, like review their meds, make sure everything's appropriate as far as dosages. Like that's what all the different departments wanted. If it's like oncology wrote a no, vascular wrote a no, ID wrote a no, this is the meds they want in the course, making sure everything's accurate for the patient, make sure the patient is aware of why they're taking these new meds and what these new meds are for, and making sure we counsel them on that, and making sure they're actually able to afford it and pick it up, right? So that's the other part that sometimes we forget. We can send all these scripts, but maybe they can't afford the Eliquis for their DVT and things like that. So making sure everything's accurate for the patients, and the appropriate dosages. And I would absolutely love that because I enjoy talking to patients and building connections like you were kind of saying. So I could see myself doing that, or I could see myself probably more in I would say a staffing position. I think personal wise, a 7-on, 7-off shift would be pretty cool for me. Yeah, pretty ideal just because of the ability to work more on the podcast and have time for other things that I'm working on, some personal projects, some side businesses and things like that. I think being able to have like, all right, I know for sure these 7 days will be dedicated to this, and I'll have a specific shift. So I know, hey, these are my hours, this is what I'm doing. And then the next week I could focus my energy, like maybe like 3 or 4 days on the podcast or 3 or 4 days on this other thing I'm trying to work on now. So it's twofold. So it's tough for me to say where I see myself, but I think it's either going to be one of those where if I'm going to keep going this route, I'll probably open up a TOC clinic somewhere, or open up like an AMP care clinic for a hospital system that doesn't have one, or it'll probably be like a 7-on, 7-off type of shift somewhere. And I'll be focused on my pharmacy duties, and then I'll be focused on the different side projects and side hustles that I'm working on.
Nice.
Yeah, but we'll see. I don't know if I have a preference. I just think whatever is meant to be, like God will make happen, and I'll just follow the path. Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier about AI.
Yes.
How is AI coming in to help the hospital pharmacists?
That's something that I think it will. First I'll say artificial intelligence is interesting. I think it's going to impact not as much pharmacists as I think healthcare. I think it's going to be a bigger impact for physicians. Like I think the role of a scribe will be gone. Like to me, I don't see a point in having a scribe if you can have a qualified artificial intelligence be able to document everything that you're saying, type of thing. So I think like a scribe might be replaced. I could see with artificial intelligence maybe different technician roles, maybe not on the inpatient side. I could see it more on the outpatient side, because we do have an outpatient pharmacy attached to the hospital, where I could see it being any phone calls that come in, like artificial intelligence would triage the calls and handle that, so a tech doesn't have to pick up phone calls. So now a tech can focus more on filling pills, preparing meds, maybe if they're licensed in that state to do immunizations, different things like that. So I could see it help optimizing things like that. I could see it help optimize maybe, and on this isn't on the pharmacist, but it could be like the buyer technician on the inpatient side. I think it'd help. One of the things, I did a YouTube shorts on this. I was messing around with ChatGPT, asking how it could impact like pharmacy. And one of the things it was saying was it would really be able to see the different trends that are going on currently and within that hospital to help you better optimize buying inventory, so we're not overstocking, Our cost is low. Also, it'll be able to track when we have hurricanes coming, 'cause that's very common in Florida. All right, what meds do we usually need? What meds are we usually low on, or has an impact based off a hurricane or based off these certain natural disasters that we can be forward thinking about and make sure we have a nice inventory stock of. So when a shortage comes, our hospital system is good. We don't have problems, and we're not having to fish and compound it ourselves, where it puts more pressure on our technicians to do things. So that's where I could see it happening. I'm still trying to figure out how it could impact like the inpatient pharmacist. That's something I haven't truly found, how artificial intelligence could impact us directly. I don't know if you have any ideas, either inpatient or retail, how it could be. But it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming.
Whether you like it or not, artificial intelligence is coming.
I think you hit one. The phones.
Yeah.
So, we got to do so many calls, calling outreach to patients.
Yeah.
So I think artificial intelligence probably would take that part of it.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Doing the phone calls, doing the reminders.
Yep, refills, all that.
Definitely now that we even like digitally linking patients' profiles so that they can just log into a portal to see their prescriptions, see where it's at in the process. Mm-hmm. They can expedite it. They can actually return to stock. So things like that, that's going to help out. I think also because really, I rarely see written prescriptions now.
Yeah,
so
it's all electronic.
That would be another thing. So just probably like sending over prescription electronic, and then the AI will probably be able to read it.
Yeah.
And then
decipher it's valid and stuff like that. Yeah.
And make sure that we don't have to retype it in. It'll just be able to just to view to make sure it's correct, but it's already typed in, completed.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So
I was thinking more validity, like, make sure it's not a fake prescription. Mm-hmm. For like sometimes patients or people try to get narcs illegally and things like that. Like, I think it also help like making sure everything's accurate and valid based off a prescription. It has all the necessary parts too.
Yeah.
It's coming.
And then also like some pharmacies, if they're high volume, they have the robot that's able to fill the prescriptions already. So probably tuning that up a little more in some way, form, or fashion. And, might even have it to the point where you have a machine like that working overnight, just filling prescriptions.
Yeah.
So when you come in, the ready fills that patients want filled every month are already done.
Yeah.
All you have to do is just pick the bottle on and just verify something, but it's already done. So you just reduce your workload by half.
And that's why when I think about AI, I feel it'll impact healthcare for sure. But will it impact pharmacists in a bad way as far as jobs? To me, I don't think so.
I don't think, because I think a lot of people want to come and talk to someone.
Yeah. They're still going to want that personal touch and relationship, but I fear that it will impact the techs.
Oh, definitely.
That's what I fear.
And then at the moment, like, you can also do like remote triage. So typing in prescriptions for different stores, you can do that remotely now. Mm-hmm. So imagine if artificial intelligence is getting to the point where it can, the doctor send over something electronically, the artificial intelligence is able to read it,
enter into the system
by itself. So now you kind of just, the triage is going, so you're reducing tech hours because you don't need that person to type to actually do that work. But for now, as it stands, the technicians is definitely needed in the pharmacy to help out with filling prescriptions day to day.
Yep.
Like, I don't see a way that technology can take that away from you actually needing another pair of hands to actually fill the prescriptions, unless everything is automated inside the pharmacy where a machine fills it itself and you just kind of like oversee it. Until we get to that point, I think the technicians are solid.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Until it gets there, and I think it will get there. So it's going to be interesting what the future has, because AI has been around for a while. A lot of people don't realize it. When you think about like Siri and Alexa, like that's all artificial intelligence, and that's something that could be progressing. It's progressing at a rapid pace. So I wonder, in the next 5 to 10 years, how impactful this will be, because I I think I saw something that said Walmart. I think in 2025 they want to be like completely, it's like all self checkout. So you'll no longer be able to actually go to a person. It's all going to be through scanning. They'll probably have like artificial voice. I don't even know if they'll have a person there to fix any issues. They might have like artificial voice to go ahead, or something within the system if there's any issues that they go ahead and resolve it. So it's like, if that's happening at Walmart, like I know healthcare is thinking of certain ways to incorporate this and to help automate the system, to help with quicker refills, reminders, triage calls, and all that. So it's exciting and scary, I would say, at the same time, with the impact it could have. But
I think it's just going to change the roles of how we move.
Yeah,
like
big time.
I know a lot of pharmacists complained about having to do too much immunizations. So one of the things that a lot of the big chains did was like, okay, this is what we can do here. Let's give the immunization role to the technicians.
Yep.
So now you don't have to look over prescriptions, verify, and try to run and do that. You can get you a technician, you can teach them, certify them, and they can give the immunization. So now you're able to spend more time on the bench and more time with the customers. So I think as artificial intelligence and as we incorporate technicians with more core roles to keep them within the system, that we will just transition to being more practitioner-ish and being able to sit down and talk with patients and consult and counsel them on their medications and how they want to take this and the side effects, and we'll be able to do that more than actually do the other little tasks.
Do you think pharmacy will get to a point to where you don't need a pharmacist like present on site, but more like on call? Like pharmacists are working remote to where it's almost like they'll have like robots do all the work, artificial intelligence do all the work, and then they'll just show you like photos of everything, and you kind of just like verify from that end. And if a patient or a person comes up and wants some counseling, the artificial intelligence will just call you, or there'll be like some type of phone there, and you'll just do it there. I don't remember if I've heard that. I feel like somebody talked to me about that, so I wanted kind of like your thoughts on if you think that could ever happen.
So right now we're already doing, I guess we're calling it virtual verification, where the technician will take the medication, take a picture of the bottle, take a picture of the pills, and then close it, package it, and then on our end, we verify by looking at the pictures. So from what you just said, yeah, that is soon to come, because if we're doing it already in this state of just within the store, I can only imagine that if you want to be a remote pharmacist, you're like, hey, I can do triage, I can verify one to make sure that everything is typed in properly, and if you already have a technician there, I can verify remotely as well, because all I have to do is see the pictures, and if there's a problem, I can leave a comment and send it back as a rejection, and then have the technician refix it, and then show me again. Yeah. So yeah, it can be at a position where the pharmacist won't actually have to be there, but the other part will be talking to the patients. And that could be one thing too, where they have it as, like you said, a phone call with all the information, the patient's profile, their medical records, the medications that they're picking up, all in front of you on a computer, and they pick the phone up, you pick the phone up, and you can give them an overview of everything that they got going on.
That's wild. To think that, like, that's where we're heading. Like, that is wild to think about, and it just shows the growth that technology is having on healthcare, the growth that pharmacy is having as a profession, and it's like I said, it's kind of incredible, it's kind of scary at the same time.
So one thing I say, like, as artificial intelligence, as things get more streamlined, as we get better, one of the things that's going to happen is the need for staffing will go down.
Yeah.
So like we spoke about earlier about bringing value, you want to make sure that you bring so much value that someone do not want to lose you on their team.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, that's how you secure your position. So you always want to keep that in mind by providing value, and not to scare anybody, but with the way the economy is, with what I would say it's mainly been the big techs, and I think big tech companies and some other companies lately have been having job cuts. healthcare's next. Like if everybody else is having job cuts, don't think healthcare is not going to experience it too. So that's something that you always want to keep in mind when it comes to different cycles of an economy, different parts of life. There's going to be times where you have to realize that you want to go ahead and always put your best foot forward, and you don't want to get in that comfortable space where it's like, oh, I got a cush job, like, I can slack off and this, that, because you never know what can happen with the economy. You never know what can happen with that company. And so if you're always putting your best foot forward, you could always, even if you were a person to lose your job, if you always put your best foot forward, guess what? Your manager or somebody else will probably be the first one to give you a high recommendation, be the first one to call you and let you know when jobs opened up. And that happened firsthand with me with my residency. My old RPD got a new position, and she would always text me at her new place like, hey, something just opened up. Like, are you interested in applying? Like, I can send you the application. Something just opened up over here in like Boston. Like, are you interested? Like, it's like, she's like, anything that's opening up, she's just letting me know. Because she saw how much value that I brought as a resident. She wanted to make sure that I find a position, a full-time position and all that. But I was comfortable. I liked where I was at, so I was like, oh, I'm good. But I appreciate it, and I never asked her to. Like, she just willingly reached out. And that kind of shows, I think, how much value she believed I brought to the program, and how much effort she was putting in to help me to make sure I get like a secured position, because she wanted to make sure that I would be well off and everything like that. So that's something to always keep in mind, is just like provide value and always try to put your best foot forward. I know it's tough, trust me. I know it's tough. Like we all have to go through it, but always try to put your best foot forward. Yeah. So let's see.
Oh, they send me a list of. Let me see. I'll go back to the messages.
Yeah. Artificial intelligence is coming. We talked about your transition. What would you say? Because we're both recent pharmacy grads, what would you say has been some of like the biggest lessons you learned going from a pharmacy student to now working in the profession? And if you need time to think, I'll speak first.
Yeah, you go first.
Okay. So I would say one of the biggest things I've learned was how important the relationship pharmacy has as a department with like the intensivists and the hospitalists at your hospital. So I'm fortunate to be at a place where the relationship is well, but when you have colleagues that work at other places, you learn that that's not always the case. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I would say when you're searching for a job, that might be a job interview question you want to ask and kind of know like, what is that hospital's intensivist and hospitalist relationship with pharmacy? If you work in the ICU, how do these ICU physicians feel about pharmacists' input and value? When you're working in the ED, how do these doctors feel about pharmacists' input and value? How much involvement is there? Is there a discussion, or do you just get told what to do? Because at the same time, we're the ones who are the gatekeepers, but we're not the ones who can really force open the gate or close the gate. That's on the doctor. The doctor makes the call, but we're still there to help them with decisions. So sometimes if you're at a place where your input isn't valued, it might make it hard for you to enjoy your work. If you're very passionate about optimizing medications, very passionate about making sure we're doing what's best for a patient, if there's a new study out and different things like that, it's life. It's tough. Doctors don't always have time to learn about a new study. I know we were very proactive about implementing Jardiance once the Emperor Preserve trial came out, when it showed the value of Jardiance in heart failure preserved ejection fraction patients, and how we should be giving this to help prevent readmissions for patients, for that patient population. So it's something where maybe a lot of physicians didn't have the opportunity to read that study or that trial, and you can do maybe a journal club with them and provide some of that evidence, or have a brief discussion, print it out for them and hand it to them, whatever the case may be, to help provide the best value that we can to our patients. So that's something that I learned, and luckily my place is good, but not all places are. So that's something that I say I learned. What else? What else have I learned? I would say, I kind of touched upon this earlier, that I don't know why, but I kind of felt like once I graduated, I was like, all right, I made it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm good now. Like, I'm just going to get me a job. I knew I was doing a residency, but I was like, I'll do a residency, then I'll be able to get a job, easy peasy, and then I'll be fine. And it's like, nope, you got to go back to square one. There was different anchor jobs I could have took, but it was like more of like the middle of nowhere type of things. And I was like, nah, I like the city life. I'll stay where I'm at. But it'd be one of those where I would have to start low within a company and work my way to a different position. So don't have that mindset to think like, now I have this pharmacist license and I made it. I'm gonna get my career, my dream job right off the bat. Like, no, you're probably gonna have to work for it again. So that's something that I want to make sure is clear and understood, that the only people I know who really got their dream job off the bat were usually people who did a PGY2. So if maybe you did a PGY2 because that's you specializing in something, so that means whatever job you're searching for will be exactly what you want, right? So unless you're not willing to do a PGY2 to get like the dream job right away, just know you might have to work yourself up there to do it. So that's two big lessons I would say. Is one, definitely don't think that you're gonna get the dream job right off the bat. You're gonna have to work to that point. And the other thing too is just making sure your hospital's relationship when it comes to the intensivist or whatever setting in the hospital you'll work in, that those physicians have a good rapport with pharmacy.
Yeah. I think my couple of things that I'll say would be the network that you build within inside the district. Pharmacy is a small world. So build a strong network. So anytime you go someplace and someone mentions your name, it's always in a great light, because people are like, you know what? I've talked with him, I communicate with him, I've seen his work, I've been around him, I know what he's capable of doing. The other thing would be like bringing value. Like that just so like I want to just keep saying that because I had to do that again.
Again, the keyword again. Yes.
By going from Maryland, coming down here to Texas, and no one knowing who I am personally. No one knows my work ethic. They didn't know what to expect of me. Yeah. And I can see why they started me as a floater instead of giving me a pharmacy manager position, because they're like, okay, yeah, we got your recommendation from your other district leader, but technically I don't know this person is either. Yeah. And I don't know the relationship you had with them, but yeah, they give you great rapport. They tell you do excellent work, but how do you work in my district? I have a totally different demographic. I have this going on. So I can see how why they would place me as a floater and be like, all right, now if he isn't a great worker, we can just keep him in this position, and we know that as we need him, we can use him. And or if he progresses and keep bringing value to the company, and we need someone to be at a store consistently to change the store, up or whatever, or someone is leaving and we need someone to step in that is a good candidate, he brings so much value so consistently that he's the first of mine. Yeah.
And that's the position you want to be in. And it can extend even beyond that, right? So I would say, I'll share a couple stories. Actually, this could be our next topic. So what we have next, right? So I'm going to ask a question to myself because I'm going to answer. But what we have next, maybe for like Pill Talk Podcast and Caps RX Podcast. So one of my big goals this year was I wanted to do a presentation to at least one pharmacy school. I'm a big fan of writing down goals. So on New Year's, I wrote down my goals for the year. And so far we had 2 presentations at UF. So thank you everybody there for making that happen. And we've been fortunate enough to have built a network with people who see our value, who some of the people have even used our services. And because they use it, they see the value. They've reached out to faculty from their school. They're like, hey, you got to bring these people in. So now we have faculty reaching out, and hopefully we can have more presentations and more opportunities to connect with pharmacy students and pharmacists at different universities within the state of Florida. And that all comes from 1, the network, and 2, the value that I brought to those people. So that's something that, I never thought this would happen. I don't want to say things until everything is finalized, but it's like, all right, this person I randomly met here, we connected during my residency, and he's from this pharmacy school. He knows these people. Yeah, I'm going to set something up. All right, this person who I helped with their services, helped them get to match with the residency that they wanted to be a part of. Yeah, you helped me so much. I'm gonna go talk to people from my school and see if we can have you come, maybe give a speech or coordinate something with the students there. Providing value to somebody else from that's within the healthcare realm, and they see the value that I've brought to the hospital and different things I've done. Oh yeah, I went to this school. I would love to have you come out and talk to the students. I always do a presentation every year. Maybe I could see if I could squeeze you in. And so it's like, and half the time I don't even ask. They kind of like bring it up to me, and it's just kind of shows the power of like writing down goals, but also the power of networking and the power of being valuable. And so once the things actually happen, I'll probably share more about these stories and maybe name drop some people. But it's incredible. Yeah, it's incredible how you just bringing value and you just being genuine with it. Like I tell people all the time, like I don't need your money, I'm good. But you know, if I can help you, if money is a problem, screw it. Just hit me up. We'll do whatever we got to do to make sure to help you get to whatever goal you're trying to get to, because I want to see everybody win. I always feel like there's way too much money in the world for people to be homeless. There's way too much money in the world for people to ever go without food, for people to ever go without water. And there's so many opportunities out there for you to be successful and have the life that you want. But sometimes you just need guidance or somebody to reach out to talk to. And through the network, through the value that I brought different people, they're bringing that value tenfold back to me. And so once those opportunities come, I got to make sure I deliver. I provide another 10x on value to whatever I do. And then they keep inviting me to come back and whatnot. Now I'm building a network with different faculty, different pharmacy schools that I never had a relationship with. And who knows, maybe I'll be in academia. Like, I don't know. I don't know where life will take me. But it's these type of things that you got to think about. Or you don't have to think about, but these type of things that can happen when you are providing, when you are networking and you're providing great value. And that's something I would say that we're trying to do here at Caps RX Podcast. We're trying to branch out, trying to meet more pharmacy students, touch more pharmacy schools, get in touch with all of you, our listeners, and being able to connect more with you guys and provide whatever value that you all would like. So that's something that's coming up with us. But actually, before we get there, I have a personal question for you.
All right.
Because I am horrible at this.
What's that?
And shout out to Carmen. She's part of Caps RX, if you don't know. She's great at this, so this is why we work well together. When it comes to networking, I can meet people, we can have a great conversation, but I am horrible at keeping in touch with people.
Okay.
So do you have a trick or a recommendation for anybody who, maybe they meet somebody, they connect, they maybe exchange a phone number or email, but then they don't really keep in contact. Do you have any tips or recommendations? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, that's a good one.
We're making you the network king, so yeah. No pressure. No pressure.
One of the things I try to do is definitely when you're networking, you want to find that person's strengths and bring value to whatever they got going on. So, like in DC, when I was in DC, selling my merch, Bigger Dreams, Less Worries. You can get it on Pill Talk Podcast, Instagram. Just click the link. But one of the things I was doing was like, okay, I need to take pictures. I need to get a photographer or whatever. Networking. Met a guy who said, hey, I'm a photographer. And I was like, hey, I don't have work for you at this moment, but when I have an opportunity, I want to reach out to you. Got his information. Some time went by, but then when I finally had that opportunity, I reached out to him, told him my vision. We connected. We did that project. And because we had that connection, the next time something came, we did another project. And next thing you know, we actually started giving each other phone calls randomly like, hey, did you ever see this? Did you know this? Because we worked together. I worked on his strength, which was photography, and we was able to actually build the bond. And that was one thing. Another thing was with a DJ. Like, okay, I'm doing my networking event. I need to find a DJ. So in a network of people that I know, one guy like, hey, such and such is a DJ. And I was like, oh, really? Went to him, talked to him, figured him out, went out to one of his shows and listened to him perform and talked to him. He was just like, oh man, I appreciate you coming out and showing love. And I'm like, yes. I'm like, I'm thinking about using you. And so because he saw the effort that I gave into him of just coming out, listening to make sure he would be the best DJ for the set that I wanted to put on, we was able to connect. did some work together. And when he came down to Houston, I was one of the first people he called. He was like, hey, I'm coming down. I didn't have anything for him to do, but he was coming down. He was like, because you brought value to me, I just want to just have a conversation. Let's link up. I'm gonna be here and here. Let's do something.
That's what happened with us.
Yeah, basically.
That's what happened with us too. Yeah, yeah. Definitely. You know, we connected on podcasts. We did both of each other's episodes, and then, yeah, I'm always asking you. I was asking you about merch. Like what, 1-2 weeks ago, we were talking about merch. I was getting advice from you on that. Different things. I'm always picking your brain on when it comes to the podcast, when it comes to networking, advertising. And, you know, I was like, hey, I'm coming to Houston. Are you free? I had to make sure he was free because he's a busy man. So I was like, yeah, let me revolve my trip around you. So when are you free? So when I come back to Houston, we can link up and do something like this. But yeah, you're like one of the few people I've kept in touch. But I feel like we just connected like off rip. Like it was a natural thing. But it's like, that's something I got to get better at because I just don't always keep in touch. Like I'll make connections. Great network, you know, add on LinkedIn, and it's like, all right, I haven't talked to you in like a year, and it's like, ooh.
I do feel like this, right? Like it's, because you have a podcast, I have a podcast. There's so many people that I've had on the podcast. Like I did 50 plus episodes, right?
Yeah.
I don't keep in contact with everyone, but I know their scripts. I know if I need something, I can just reach out to them via email, phone, text, or whatnot. It's just that some people, whatever they do is so impactful to what I got going on that you make that connection stronger, right? With me and you, it's just one of those things when we saw each other, like, oh, you're building up your podcast, I'm building mine.
Yeah.
Let's combine powers to move it faster.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Let's collaborate to see where things can escalate towards. Because I have a different audience than you, you have a different audience than me. But if we can cross-pollinate somehow, kind of see if maybe we can get a little bit of each other's audience and we can help each other grow as well.
So another person that I've connected with, that you even connected with, he's out there in Florida.
Jacksonville now, yeah.
He said he was a pharmacist. He's a pharmacist. Now he sells life insurance. Yeah. So throughout our conversation, he was like, hey, life insurance is so important because of X, Y, and Z. And because I was a pharmacist, I know I want to help other pharmacists get this life insurance and get this education. And after the episode, I sat back and I started thinking like, hey, yeah, I have life insurance through my company, but if I ever leave that company, the life insurance is left. It's done.
It's done, yep.
So it's like, I need to insure myself. So I reached back out to him and, hey, what's going on? He comes to Houston. So he flew out to Houston, came by my job. We sat down and had lunch and was able to build a rapport. Me and him has a communication and we have started some business together. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I plan on seeing him in Jacksonville soon because that's only like a couple hours away from Orlando. So we've been talking. Hopefully I can go see him in Jacksonville. Great guy. I don't know when this is going to air. I know it was this past Monday. He was our episode. I think it was episode 16, season 8, episode 16 with Chris Vasu. It was more of a finance episode, his perspective on things. If you go to Pill Talk podcast, he touched more upon some of the pharmacy as well on his episode. Yeah. On mine, it was more about the finances and how he was able to support himself through different adversity that he faced in life, how he was kind of be able to fund himself as his own bank and things like that. But on his episode, he kind of touched upon that a little bit, but he also talked about his pharmacy background too. So definitely check out Pill Talk podcast. I don't remember what episode it was, but definitely check out that episode. If you search for it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, it should pop up. Yeah. Okay. So what would you say are some of the things that you're kind of cooking up now with Pill Talk podcast? Because I know you've been swamped with the transition. So what are some things you chefing up?
I had to put Pill Talk podcast on the back burner because of moving, being in Florida, not having a set schedule, not being able to reach out to certain people to make episodes. Now that I'm just got promoted, having my own store, about to have a set schedule, I'm able to get back and just communicate and have conversations and start the process over again. So my aim now with Pill Talk podcast will be giving out more knowledge from the retail angle. So with what customers need, some information that they need, tell you and share some stories that I have, how I've impacted customers, how they impacted my life. Also, just give some tidbits or tidbits about how you can position yourself to get promoted or get raises or increments faster. Because like I've talked to my friends and my colleagues who are pharmacists, and they may only get a raise one time per year, but there's little things that they can do, like by bringing more value, that can help them be able to transition up faster.
And that raise, to be honest with you, isn't really a raise. Because that's just to keep up with inflation. So every year, usually inflation's somewhere, not now, right now it's high, but usually it's like 2 to 3%. So your job pay will probably increase by about 2 to 3% just to match inflation. So it's not really a raise. It looks that way. You're really just making the same amount of money based off the inflation. So that's something that you want to have, that ability, is to how to get that job, right? How can you sell yourself in an interview? How can you build that opportunity for you to have an open discussion with one of your managers or one of your bosses to be able to get a higher paying salary, or be able to maybe get promoted to a job. Maybe it's not increase in pay, but promoted to a title that you've always been wanting, or promoted to a certain store you've always wanted to be at, and things like that. And that's unfortunate, but that's the business side of pharmacy that nobody really touches. And that's something that I had to learn too. It's like, okay, you taught us all these drugs, but you never taught me how to sit down and interview. You never taught me how to sell myself in an interview. Like, why should they hire me? Like, I don't know. Like, so it's like, how am I able to sell myself to be different than anybody else that's coming, anybody else that's applying for the same position? How can I be able to show the value, not just say it, but show the value on my CV that I brought to a company and things like that? And those are the things that I wish they had more of, and that's something that I would love for you to do, to bring more value. And that's something to any pharmacy student that's listening. I think you definitely got to tune in, because this could also help you when you're coming out of that student position, to help you get that job, to help you be able to set up that negotiation for the future discussion of getting a raise, right? They always say the best time to do is when you're going to a new job, is to be able, okay, when can we discuss possible raises and different things like that? To start having the negotiation already open at those point in times. But nobody in pharmacy is going to tell you that. You're not going to learn that in pharmacy school. And that's not really their job either, to tell you that. So that's something where, you can have a great resource like Pill Talk Podcast to provide you that type of information.
And one thing, like you just said, being flexible to be able to change positions.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to go from a staff at this store to a pharmacy manager at this store, back to a staff.
Yeah.
And then when you get back to the pharmacy manager, you just realize you just took 2 or 3 steps up.
Mm-hmm.
You went from a slow store to a medium store to a high volume store. And every time you did those transitions, you got a raise.
Yeah. So
that's one little hint right there on how you can, that's 2 raises right there in 1 year.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And that brings me back to something else that we were kind of talking about when it comes to another big life lesson that I've learned. And one of my mentors told me this a long time ago. When I was still in school, she was saying, do not make any big purchases within like your first couple of years of being done with pharmacy. Because she was like, I've had colleagues who she worked for a pharmaceutical company. So she was like, I had colleagues that they made a big purchase on a house or on a car, and hey, I know starting off your pay, it might be like 80,000, which is pretty low, right? But she was like, with these bonuses and all these different things, like you can make way more money and you'll get raises way faster, because I know your work ethic, I know how you are. Like you'll be so successful in this position that you'll be making probably twice as much as you make now in like 3-4 years. Mm-hmm. And that will continue to possibly with more bonuses in the future and stuff like that. But because people lock themselves into a mortgage or lock themselves into a car or whatever else expensive things that they're buying, that can sometimes hurt you. So one big thing I recommend to any student or any new pharmacist is try to withhold making any purchases that lock you in at the pay that you're currently making. Because you want to have that flexibility that Bartu just mentioned to be able to drop down maybe a little bit to lesser pay to then be able to go up. Because a lot of times I think we think it's a linear, but it's not. It's like the stock market, it goes up and down. You know, like sometimes you might have to go down to go back up and make more money. And that's one of the things that my mentor was telling me. You never know what opportunities might open, and you might have to take a pay cut for you to be able to make more money in the future. But you have to be flexible and able to take that pay cut. So that's a big thing I would recommend is try not to make any purchases that lock you into something. Unless you know for sure that's what you want to do. Like you want to work at this store, you want to work at this place, you want to be there the rest of your life, then go ahead, buy that house or buy that car. But if you know you want to transition a little bit or you're unsure what you want to do, or if money is a big thing for you, that might be something where you might want to hold off because maybe the best opportunity for you isn't in that current location where you're at. It could be in a different state, or it could be with a different company within that state where you have to move. So try to be open-minded to that and not lock yourself into any situation your first couple of years outside of pharmacy school. But yeah, anything else going on for Pill Talk? So that consistency you want to get, you want to release more personal content, more about the retail space, more how you can show your value and how you can bring value to your company. Anything else? Anything else you got cooking?
Nah, that's about it for right now. Just want to, I guess, re-release the merch, let everybody know to get that. But other than that, nah, that's all. What about yourself?
Like I said, mainly the schools. That's what I want to do is get in touch with more schools. We've been talking about merch, so that should be coming soon, hopefully. I was hoping by the end of May, we'll see if I can get that going. But definitely before the end of the year. That was the goal that I wrote down January 1st, was to make sure I have merch before the end of the year. So that's one of my goals as well. Those would be my top 2 goals right now for this year. More presentations at more pharmacy schools and creating some merch, but we'll see. I'll put this into the air now. I don't know if it'll happen this year, but I would love to be able to do like a turkey drive in Orlando or some type of charitable event in Orlando. So that's something that I want to do. I don't know if I'll be able to start it this year. If not this year, maybe next year. And if not in Orlando, I know some people who do some stuff in the Fort Lauderdale area. So that might be a little bit easier because of the connections there. So it might be more of a collaborative event. I'm in some talks about possibly doing that. If not this year, for sure next year. That's something that I would love to do. And if anybody's listening is interested in being a part of that, whether it's a turkey drive, whether if it's clothes for the homeless, whether it's food for the homeless, whatever the case may be that we decide to do either this year or next year, definitely let me know, reach out. I'll tell you how you can get involved and things like that. But
I want to do the same thing out here in Houston too. So
some charitable events. Yeah, charitable events. And then actually, something else I want to do. I thought about this before you did this, but I wanted to host some type of event. I'm not sure exactly what type of event, what type of pharmacy event. I know you have one. That was in DC though, right?
In DC, yeah.
Okay, that was in DC. But I want to host an event that probably will be next year if I do it. I had a very brief mention of it with one of my team's meetings. But that's something that I think in the future I would love to have, is some type of event. Not sure exactly what it would be about. Maybe some type of health fair. I don't know if I want to do it more for like the community or more for the pharmacy students and the pharmacists. That's something I'm still trying to brainstorm and wrap my head around what type of value I really want to bring to the community. But I definitely want to do some type of event, and definitely some charitable events. Those are like my top 2 big things outside of the touching more pharmacy schools and creating this merch. Cause I want to wear my own stuff, man. I want to be cool like you. Like I love seeing people wear their own merch, and it's like, man, I want to wear my own. I want to be cool. So that's something. That's something I'm gonna.
It's gonna happen for the end of the year. Matter of fact, give yourself 30 days. I bet you can do it. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. Then in May, yeah. I'm gonna say the longer you give yourself, it's gonna take that long.
Take long, yeah.
If you just say, you know what, 7 days, I'm gonna have my merch. When you get something trademarked, put it out, you're done.
Yeah, so that's something that hopefully the end of May I can get this going, and then I'm probably gonna have to photographer too. So if you're listening, that's what they do. That's what I see all the YouTubers do. So if you're listening, right? If you're listening right here, right now, and you are a photographer, or you're trying to work on your photography skills, you want to get better, grow with us. All right, give me a call, hit me up. Once we get the merch, we're gonna need to roll out with some cool photos, some videos. So we would love a photographer to come and assist us in that. If you need money, don't worry about it. I can get that to you. But I love seeing people grow and building. So it's like, if you ask me, I personally want somebody who's trying to build their page and grow, because I think that'd be cool if we can both boost our trajectory. But if you're already well renowned or whatever the case may be, or if you know somebody that's well renowned and a great photographer, please DM me on Instagram at CapsRX Podcast or at new_CapsRX Podcast. You can DM us on TikTok. Same thing at new_CapsRX Podcast, and we'd love to go ahead and connect with those people. But yeah. Hopefully the end of May. That's the goal. The end of May is my goal to get the merch going. And then before we go, do you want to shout out your different Instagrams, TikToks? I think they're all at Pill Talk, right?
So Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, Pill Talk Podcast. Check it out. You can also go to pilltalkpodcast.com, or you can go to Pill Talk Podcast Instagram, hit the link tree, everything pops up. You can go there and get some merch. Bigger dreams, less worries. That's one of the mantras I live by, because I'm a big picture type of guy, and as long as I'm going towards the goal and making progress, I'm happy. So I want you to be that same way too. So check me out, Pill Talk Podcast.
Definitely do it. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Not sure how this will go as far as clipping it up, but this is my first time doing something live. I don't know about you.
I think second or third.
So he's the pro. He's done it all. So he's the pro. This is my first time doing it. Let me know if you guys like this and whatnot. It'll probably be like minor edits here and there. Not too scripted. This is like, usually I have questions I send out. They get little pre-rehearsal. This is all just right on the bat. Like, we didn't discuss anything. We just showed up, sat down. I was like, hey, these are things that I think I want to talk about. He's like, all right, cool. Sit down. Let's do it. So that's what happened here. Thank you guys for listening. Greatly appreciate it. If you haven't, please check out at Pill Talk Podcast. Check out his platform. Buy some merch. Support him. Awesome man over here. And then anybody that's new to my channel, to my page, please check us out at new_CapsRX Podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the major streaming platforms, Google Play, etc. So if there's anything that you need from us, we're here for you. We have different services as far as like job interviews, mock interviews for residency, CV reviews, letter of intent reviews. If you need help with the NAPLEX, please feel free to reach out. We have a tutoring service as well. If you're scared to pay, you don't want to pay for things, just hit me up. If you just need help, I'm telling you, just hit me up. I really don't care. So it's like, I'm a horrible salesman. But just hit me up. I honestly just want to help you guys, and that's how I've been able to build so many connections with so many awesome people, because I just help them, and I'm like, don't worry about the money. But seriously, guys, if you need help, a lot of things are going on. If you're a pharmacy student, maybe you're trying to create a platform and you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask. I reach out to him all the time. Okay, I'm not a genius. I don't know things. I'm like, all right, well, you're doing this. It looks cool. So let me ask you. So don't be afraid to ask me if you have questions. So I feel like he can answer things better. I'll definitely try to connect you to him. Anything you guys need, please don't hesitate to reach out, because that's the one thing I think a lot of us kind of get scared of, is to be able to ask or to reach out to make things happen for yourself. So don't be scared to reach out. We're friendly. We're not antisocial. Okay, you guys, we're cool. So definitely feel free to reach out. Anything we can do to help provide value, to help you guys out with your lives, please let me know. We definitely want to do it. And thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it.